The day my husband was buried, I believed the worst moment of my life had already happened. I was wrong. The truth arrived while I stood beside the coffin. Rain moved slowly across the cemetery. The kind of rain that does not fall loudly. It drifts down quietly, like the sky is holding back grief. I stood beside the open grave and listened to the priest finish speaking. I barely heard the words. 30 years of marriage had ended in a hospital room 2 days earlier, and my mind had not yet accepted the silence he left behind. Friends stood behind me. Some cried. Some whispered. My family gathered closer than anyone else, placing hands on my shoulders and speaking softly about strength and healing. Yet something about them felt strange. Not wrong. Not exactly. Just strange. Perhaps grief changes the way a person sees faces. Perhaps loss twists the meaning of ordinary moments. That was what I told myself as the coffin was lowered. The rope creaked slowly. Wood disappeared into the ground. 30 years of shared mornings, shared arguments, shared victories, and shared failures were being buried beneath wet soil. I thought that moment would break me. But the real fracture came seconds later. A voice appeared beside my ear. Quiet. Calm. A stranger. Your husband did not die the way you believe. I froze. My heart struck my ribs like a hammer. I turned slowly. A person stood beside me. I had never seen that face before. Mid-40s perhaps. Dark coat. Rain resting on the shoulders. Eyes steady and watching me carefully, as if measuring how much truth I could handle. Funerals bring strangers sometimes. Old colleagues. Forgotten acquaintances. Yet this person stood too close. Too confident. You are mistaken, I answered quietly. The stranger shook their head once. I am not mistaken. I felt anger rising beneath my grief. This is not the place for jokes. I agree. The stranger reached into their coat and removed a thin envelope. Brown paper. No writing. No name. This belongs to you, they said. My fingers did not move. What is this? The beginning of something your husband tried to tell you. Those words drained the air from my lungs. Before I could speak again, the stranger stepped backward into the line of mourners. Then turned. Then walked away. Just like that. Within seconds they disappeared between rows of umbrellas and black coats. I stood frozen beside the grave. The envelope rested in my hands. My family did not notice. They were focused on the burial. Soil fell onto the coffin with dull, heavy sounds. The priest continued speaking, but all I heard was the stranger voice repeating again inside my mind. Your husband did not die the way you believe. I waited until the ceremony ended before opening the envelope. My hands trembled as I slid one finger beneath the flap. Inside were 3 items: a photograph, a legal document, and a folded piece of paper. The photograph fell into my palm first. My breath stopped. It showed my husband standing beside a teenage child, perhaps 16 years old. They stood outside a small house, both smiling. The resemblance was impossible to ignore. The same eyes, the same posture, the same half-smile he used whenever he felt proud of something. I stared at the image for several seconds before my mind formed the terrifying question. Who is this child? My husband never mentioned any child. Not once. Not during 30 years of marriage. My fingers moved to the second item, the legal document. My heart pounded harder with every word. Court filing. 2 months earlier. Filed by my husband. Against me. The paper shook in my hands as I read the title. Civil lawsuit. Property control dispute. Request for divorce. I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. Divorce? 2 months earlier? That made no sense. We shared breakfast every morning. We planned a vacation 3 weeks earlier. We laughed together the night before he entered the hospital. Nothing about our life suggested divorce. Nothing. Yet the court stamp was real. The lawyer's signature was real. And the document listed my name as the defendant. A second page revealed another detail that stopped my breathing again. Custody request. Filed by my husband. For the teenage child in the photograph. My fingers tightened around the paper. Rain soaked the ink. But the line remained clear enough for me to read again. Custody petition connected to inheritance protection. My mind struggled to connect the words. Inheritance protection for a child I never knew existed. I unfolded the final paper. Inside was only one sentence written in black ink. Simple. Direct. Your family already knows. The world around me faded. Voices of mourners drifted somewhere far away. Your family already knows. I lifted my head slowly. My relatives stood nearby speaking quietly together. My brother, my sister, my cousin, all of them looked calm. Too calm. I felt a cold weight form inside my chest. Then another realization struck me harder than anything else. The lawsuit date. 2 months earlier. Which meant something impossible. I looked again at the document, searching for one detail, one confirmation, and there it was. Court notification record. According to the document, the court had already sent notice to my address, meaning I should have known about the lawsuit weeks ago. But I never received anything. No letter, no phone call, nothing. Someone stopped that notice from reaching me. Someone inside my own house. The rain grew heavier, and while my husband's coffin disappeared beneath the soil, a darker thought began growing inside my mind. Someone did not want me to know my husband was preparing to fight me in court. Someone close enough to intercept legal documents. Someone standing beside me right now. And somewhere beyond the cemetery gate, the stranger who gave me the envelope was probably waiting. Because the funeral was only the beginning. And the truth about my husband's death was about to destroy my entire family. I did not leave the cemetery with the others. My family walked toward their cars, speaking in low voices about food, guests, and the quiet routines people follow after a funeral. I watched them move away while the envelope stayed in my hand like a burning piece of evidence. 30 years of marriage had just been buried beneath wet soil. Yet the questions in that envelope felt heavier than the coffin itself. I stepped away from the crowd and moved toward a stone bench near the far end of the cemetery. Rain continued falling in thin, steady lines. My clothes were already soaked, but I barely noticed. I spread the documents across the bench. The photograph again. The lawsuit again. The handwritten message again. Your family already knows. I stared at the photograph longer this time. The teenager standing beside my husband looked calm, almost comfortable. Their shoulders leaned slightly toward him the way a child leans toward someone they trust. That was not the body language of strangers. This child knew my husband well. Very well. The detail that unsettled me most was the expression on my husband's face. I had seen that exact smile many times. It appeared whenever he solved a difficult problem or protected something valuable, which meant this photograph was not random. This moment meant something to him. My fingers turned the photograph over. A date was written on the back. 3 months earlier. 3 months. That meant my husband had met this child only weeks before filing the lawsuit against me. The thought struck me suddenly. Or perhaps he had known the child much longer. Perhaps I was the only person who did not know. The wind pushed the legal document against the bench. I grabbed it before it blew away and forced myself to read it again slowly. Civil lawsuit. Filed by my husband, accusing me of controlling financial accounts belonging to his company. The words felt unreal. My husband never complained about finances. We shared access to every account. Every decision about money passed through both of us. Yet the lawsuit claimed something very different. According to the filing, large transfers had been made from his company accounts without his approval, and the document named me as the person responsible. My stomach tightened. I continued reading. The lawsuit also claimed I prevented him from accessing certain business records. That accusation felt absurd. But another detail made my blood run cold. The company listed in the lawsuit. It carried my family name, not my husband's name. My family built that company decades earlier. My husband joined after our marriage and helped expand it into something far larger than anyone expected. For 30 years, the company represented our shared success. Yet according to this document, my husband believed someone inside my family used the company accounts without his knowledge. I read one sentence again. Funds redirected through internal family channels. The phrase sounded vague and legalistic, but its meaning felt clear enough. Money moved secretly. Someone took advantage of trust. But why accuse me? My hands began shaking again. Unless he did not accuse me. Unless someone made it appear that way. The thought lingered in my mind for several seconds before I unfolded the final sheet again. Your family already knows. The rain blurred the ink slightly, but the message remained sharp in my mind. My family already knows. I lifted my head slowly. Across the cemetery parking area, my brother stood beside his car speaking with my sister. Their conversation seemed tense. My brother's hands moved in quick gestures while my sister kept looking toward me. Then they stopped talking the moment I looked back. An uneasy silence stretched across the distance. I felt a strange weight inside my chest. Something had shifted in the air between us. I folded the papers carefully and placed them back into the envelope. Then my phone vibrated in my pocket. The sound startled me. I pulled it out and stared at the screen. Unknown number. For a moment, I considered ignoring it. But curiosity pushed me to answer. I lifted the phone slowly. Who is this? The voice on the other side sounded familiar. Calm. Controlled. The stranger from the funeral. I wanted to make sure the envelope reached you. My pulse accelerated instantly. Who are you? A person trying to stop a lie from burying your husband twice. I clenched the phone tighter. What lie? His death. A wave of anger surged through me. My husband died in a hospital. Doctors confirmed the cause. Doctors confirmed what someone paid them to confirm. My breath caught. You are making accusations without proof. Proof exists. The stranger paused. And your family is afraid of it. I stood up from the bench. Rain slid down my face, but I barely felt it. Why involve me? Because you are part of the lawsuit. I never filed anything. I know. Then explain. Silence lasted several seconds. When the stranger spoke again, the voice carried a colder tone. 2 months before your husband died, he prepared evidence for a major court case. I already saw the lawsuit. That was only the beginning. My chest tightened. What do you mean? Your husband planned to expose financial crimes inside your family company. My thoughts spun. That is impossible. Is it? Another pause followed. Then the stranger added something that made the world feel unstable beneath my feet. The lawsuit you read was not meant to attack you. Then why is my name there? Because someone inside your family arranged it that way. My grip on the phone weakened. Rainwater dripped from my hair onto the screen. Why would my family do that? To control the company. The stranger voice lowered slightly. And to silence your husband. The sentence lingered in the cold air. Silence filled the phone again. I felt my heartbeat growing louder. Then I asked the question that had been burning inside my mind since I saw the photograph. Who is the child? The stranger answered without hesitation. The reason your husband began investigating your family. My breathing slowed. What does that mean? It means your husband discovered something that should have remained hidden. Another pause. Then the stranger delivered the sentence that changed everything I believed about my marriage. The child carries your family name. My mind froze. That makes no sense. It will soon. I closed my eyes briefly. 30 years of memories collided with the impossible truth forming in front of me. Then I spoke again. Why are you helping me? The stranger voice sounded steady. Because your husband asked someone to protect the truth if anything happened to him. Who? You will learn that in court. My heart skipped. There is going to be a trial? Yes. For what exactly? For fraud. For inheritance manipulation. For a death that might not be natural. My stomach twisted. Then the stranger ended the call with one final sentence. Prepare yourself. The next document arriving at your house will be the official court summons. The line went silent. I slowly lowered the phone. Across the parking lot, my brother closed his car door and began walking toward me. His face looked tight, too serious for someone leaving a funeral. And as he approached, another thought formed quietly in the back of my mind. If the stranger was telling the truth, then the court notice meant something terrifying. My husband had tried to expose someone before he died, and the people standing closest to me during his funeral might already know exactly what he discovered. But the thing that frightened me most was the question I still could not answer. If my husband feared my family, why did he never warn me? Next Sath chapter name Ebliko below is the next chapter with the chapter name included, continuing the fast-paced narrative, maintaining suspense, legal tension, and new twists. I did not go home immediately. My brother reached me near the bench while the rain softened into a thin mist. His eyes dropped toward the envelope still in my hand. What is that? He asked. His tone sounded casual, yet something behind his voice felt sharp. Nothing, I answered. The lie left my mouth faster than expected. For 30 years I never hid anything from my family. Yet something deep inside me warned that showing him the envelope would be a mistake. My brother studied my face for several seconds. You should not stand in the rain, he said. Everyone is leaving. I will come soon. He nodded slowly, but his eyes remained on the envelope. That moment lasted long enough for unease to spread across my chest. Then he turned and walked back toward the parking lot. I watched him leave. Something inside me whispered a question I had never asked before. How well do I truly know my own family? When the cemetery became quiet, I placed the envelope inside my coat and walked toward the main gate. Wind moved through the tall trees lining the road. The sky had grown darker, the afternoon already fading toward evening. I stepped outside the cemetery entrance and stopped immediately. The stranger stood beside a black car parked across the street, waiting, as if they knew I would not leave without answers. For several seconds, neither of us moved. Then the stranger opened the car door slowly. "You have questions," they said. That would be an understatement. I crossed the street carefully. Up close, the stranger looked older than I first thought. Lines of fatigue rested beneath their eyes, the kind created by long nights and heavy responsibilities. "You called me," I said. "Now explain." The stranger gestured toward the passenger seat. "Get inside. We should not speak here." "Why not?" "Because your brother has already started watching you." My stomach tightened instantly. "You are making assumptions." "I rarely make mistakes." The calm confidence in their voice unsettled me. After a moment of hesitation, I entered the car. The door closed. The world outside suddenly felt distant. The stranger started the engine but did not drive away yet. Instead, they reached into a leather folder resting between the seats. "My name is Daniel Mercer," they said. The name meant nothing to me. "I am a legal representative connected to the case your husband prepared." "Case against my family?" "Yes." The word felt heavy inside the small car. I took a slow breath. "Why did my husband trust you?" "Because I was one of the few people who believed him." My heart skipped. Believed him about what? Daniel Mercer opened the folder. Inside were multiple documents. Photographs, bank records, medical reports, a thick stack of evidence. He placed one sheet in front of me. I read the heading, Corporate Financial Audit. The company name beneath it belonged to my family. My pulse quickened. "Your husband hired investigators," Daniel said. "For what reason?" "To understand why millions of dollars were disappearing from the company." "That is impossible." That was his reaction too. He handed me another page. Bank transfers. Large amounts. Moving through several hidden accounts. Every account belonged to members of my family. My throat tightened. "This cannot be correct." "That is exactly what your husband said 3 months ago." The date on the document matched the photograph I found in the envelope. 3 months. The same time the mysterious child appeared. I looked up slowly. "You still have not explained the child." Daniel nodded once. "That child triggered everything." "How?" "Your husband discovered that someone inside your family used company money to control several people." "What people?" "Families connected to business disputes." My confusion deepened. "That makes no sense." "It will." He turned another document toward me. A birth certificate. My heart jumped. The surname printed on the certificate matched my family name. The same name printed on the company. The same name printed on the lawsuit. I leaned closer. The child in the photograph. The child my husband wanted custody of. Carried my family's surname. But the parent names listed on the certificate were unfamiliar. "Who are these people?" I asked. "They were business partners many years ago. And they refused to sell their shares." My stomach tightened. Daniel's voice lowered. "Shortly after that dispute, they lost everything." "What happened to them?" "They disappeared from public records." Silence filled the car. Rain tapped softly against the windshield. I stared again at the birth certificate. Then a thought entered my mind slowly. Why does the child carry my family name? Daniel watched me carefully. Because the child parents were forced to sign legal agreements before they vanished. The air inside the car felt colder. What agreements? Ownership transfers. And the child? They were used as leverage. My breathing slowed. "You are saying my family threatened them." "I am saying your husband believed exactly that." The sentence hung between us. Then Daniel added something even darker. "And once your husband began asking questions, he started receiving warnings." My voice dropped. "What kind of warnings?" "Financial threats, legal pressure, anonymous messages, and then something worse." I stared at him. What could be worse than that? Daniel reached into the folder again. He removed a medical report. Hospital admission records. My husband's name printed clearly at the top. "This was taken 2 weeks before his death," Daniel said quietly. I scanned the page. My heart began beating harder. "Toxic substances detected in bloodstream." The words felt unreal. "Doctors told me he had organ failure." I whispered. "They told you what someone instructed them to say." My mind refused to accept it. "You are suggesting my husband was poisoned." Daniel met my eyes without hesitation. "I am saying your husband believed someone tried to poison him." Silence stretched for several seconds. Then I forced another question. "If that is true, why did he never tell me?" Daniel leaned back slightly in the seat. His answer came slowly. Because the evidence he collected pointed directly toward your family. My chest tightened. Then Daniel delivered the sentence that made my entire world feel unstable. Your husband tried to expose someone before he died. I swallowed hard. Who? Daniel closed the folder carefully. You will learn that during the trial. My heart pounded. What trial? The one your family will fight desperately to avoid. I stared at him. And the reason they will try to stop it, he paused. Then finished the sentence quietly, is because the courtroom will reveal what really happened to your husband. I sat in silence while the rain blurred the streets outside Daniel Mercer's car window. Every passing building looked unfamiliar, as if the city itself had shifted while I was standing beside my husband's grave. 30 years of marriage suddenly carried questions I never imagined asking. When the car stopped in front of my house, Daniel turned off the engine but did not move immediately. You should prepare yourself, he said. For what? Your family will act quickly. Why? Because once the court notice reaches you, they will know the truth cannot remain buried. I looked toward the front door of my home. Lights were on inside. My brother's car sat in the driveway. You were right, I said quietly. They are already here. Daniel followed my gaze. Be careful what you say tonight. What should I do? Listen more than you speak. And if they ask about the envelope, tell them nothing. I opened the door slowly. Before stepping out, I asked one more question. You said my husband trusted you. Daniel nodded. Did he believe I was involved in this? Daniel held my eyes for several seconds. No. The answer landed inside me like a fragile piece of relief. He believed you were the only person he could not fully explain things to yet. Why? Because he feared your family would reach you before he finished collecting proof. I stepped out of the car. The cold evening air wrapped around me. When I turned back, Daniel spoke again. We will meet soon. When? You will know when the court notice arrives. The car engine started. Within seconds, the vehicle disappeared down the dark street. I stood alone in front of my house. For the first time in decades, the place felt unfamiliar. This house held memories of birthday dinners, quiet mornings, long conversations with my husband about the future we planned together. Now it felt like a stage hiding secrets. I walked toward the front door. The moment I opened it, my brother's voice reached me from the living room. There you are. My sister sat beside him on the couch. Both looked serious. Too serious for a normal family gathering after a funeral. You stayed behind, my sister said. I needed air. My brother's eyes moved slowly across my coat, then toward my hands. You left the cemetery late. Yes. Did someone speak with you there? The question arrived too quickly. My chest tightened. What do you mean? We saw someone near you earlier. My heart skipped. You are imagining things. My brother leaned forward slightly. No, we are not. The tension in the room thickened. I removed my coat and placed it over a chair, keeping the envelope hidden inside the inner pocket. Why are you both here? I asked. My sister exchanged a glance with my brother. Then she stood up and walked toward the kitchen. Moments later, she returned holding a white envelope. Government seal. Court stamp. The sight made my pulse spike. This arrived today, she said. She handed it to me. The envelope felt heavy. I already knew what waited inside. Still, opening it sent a cold wave through my chest. Official court summons. Case filing date confirmed the same information I saw earlier in the cemetery. Civil lawsuit connected to corporate fraud. Inheritance protection. Financial misconduct investigation. My name appeared again, but this time something else stood beside it. Witness designation. My eyes narrowed. That is strange, I said slowly. My brother studied my face carefully. What is strange? They listed me as both defendant and witness. That is normal in complex cases. No, I replied quietly. It is not. The room grew silent. My brother stood up slowly. You are overthinking this. I do not think so. I turned the document toward him. If I am accused of controlling company accounts, why would the court also call me as a witness? My brother's face stiffened. It is probably a clerical error. Courts do not make mistakes like this. My sister stepped forward. You should not worry tonight. We will hire lawyers and handle everything. Her words sounded rehearsed, almost prepared in advance. That thought sent another chill through my body. Why are you so calm about this? I asked. My brother folded his arms. Because problems are solved through legal settlements. Settlement? Yes. What exactly are we settling? The company dispute. I looked directly at him. What dispute? For a moment, neither of them answered. Then my brother spoke slowly. Your husband believed the company finances required adjustment. That sounds vague. He misunderstood several internal transfers. Transfers to who? Family accounts. The room felt smaller. How much money? My brother hesitated, then answered. Enough to create unnecessary attention. My stomach tightened. So the lawsuit is real. Yes. And you already knew about it. My sister spoke quickly. We plan to tell you later. When exactly? After the funeral. The explanation felt weak. I placed the court document on the table. My husband filed this case 2 months ago. Neither of them replied. I never received notice. My brother's voice became sharper. Mail mistakes. Happen. Not with court summons. The tension thickened again. Then my brother asked the question that confirmed my growing suspicion. Did anyone give you documents at the cemetery today? My heart pounded. The envelope inside my coat suddenly felt heavier. No, his eyes searched my face. You are certain? Yes. A long silence followed. My sister walked toward the window and stared outside. My brother slowly returned to his seat. You are grieving, he said. You should rest. His calm tone felt artificial. Too controlled. I gathered the court papers and folded them carefully. Before I sleep, I said quietly, there is something I want to understand. My brother looked up. What? If my husband believed the company money was being moved illegally, I paused, then asked the question that had been growing inside my mind since the cemetery. Why did he request custody of a teenager carrying our family name? My brother's expression changed instantly. Not confusion, not surprise, fear. It lasted only 1 second, but I saw it clearly, and that single moment told me something far more terrifying than the court summons. My family already knew about the child, which meant the stranger message inside the envelope was true. But the realization that followed felt even worse. If my family knew about the child, then they also knew why my husband started investigating them. And that meant the trial Daniel Mercer mentioned was not the real danger. The real danger was living inside this house with people who might already know exactly what happened to my husband. Sleep never arrived that night. I remained awake in the dark living room long after my brother and sister left the house. The clock on the wall moved slowly through the early hours of morning, each minute stretching my thoughts further into uncertainty. The court summons rested on the table. Beside it lay the envelope from the cemetery. I had read both documents so many times that the words began to blur together. Financial fraud, inheritance protection, custody request, and the one question that refused to leave my mind. Who was the teenager standing beside my husband in that photograph? My phone vibrated suddenly on the table. The sound echoed through the silent room. I stared at the screen. The same unknown number appeared again. Daniel Mercer. I answered immediately. I expected your call earlier, I said. You are not sleeping, Daniel replied calmly. That is obvious. Did your family visit tonight? Yes. And they brought the court notice? Yes. Silence lingered briefly. That means they are already preparing their defense, Daniel said. My brother wants to settle the case. That confirms what I expected. What exactly does that mean? It means the trial would expose something they cannot afford to reveal. I leaned back in the chair. Then tell me the truth about the child. Daniel's voice remained steady. Meet me tomorrow. Where? I will send the address. Will the child be there? Yes. My heart skipped. Then tomorrow I will finally understand what my husband was hiding. Daniel paused. Then he corrected me quietly. He was not hiding it. He was protecting it. The call ended. Morning arrived slowly. The sky looked pale when I left the house. I told no one where I was going. Daniel's message contained only an address. A small residential street on the opposite side of the city. The drive took nearly 40 minutes. Every red traffic light gave my mind another chance to imagine different explanations. An affair, a secret child, a hidden family. But something about those theories never felt right. My husband never behaved like someone living a double life. Yet the photograph clearly showed trust between him and that teenager. When I reached the address, I saw a modest house near the corner of the street. Daniel stood outside beside the gate. He nodded as I approached. Thank you for coming. I did not have a choice. That is true. I followed him through the gate. The yard looked simple. A wooden swing moved slowly in the wind. Children's drawings hung on a wall near the entrance door. But the house itself felt quiet, almost cautious. Before we go inside, Daniel said, you should understand something. What? The teenager you are about to meet believes your husband was the only person protecting them. Protecting them from who? Daniel looked directly into my eyes. Your family. The words felt heavier than expected. Explain that after we talked to the child, I said. Daniel opened the door. Inside, the living room looked small but tidy. A teenage boy sat on the couch reading a book. When he lifted his head, I felt my breath stop. The resemblance to my husband was unmistakable. The same calm eyes. The same quiet posture. The same thoughtful expression. For a moment, I forgot how to speak. The boy closed the book slowly. Are you the person Daniel told me about? His voice sounded careful. Yes. I am the spouse of the man you met. He nodded once. I know. Daniel remained near the door. The boy stood up. My name is Adrian. I repeated the name silently in my mind. Adrian. The same name printed on the birth certificate. How long did you know my husband? I asked. About 2 years. 2 years. The number struck me harder than expected. Did he visit often? Yes. What did he tell you about me? Adrian's expression softened slightly. He said you were the only person he trusted completely. The statement felt both comforting and painful at the same time. If he trusted me, I asked carefully, why did he never tell me about you? Adrian looked toward Daniel briefly, then back at me. Because he believed telling you would put you in danger. My chest tightened. Danger from who? Adrian's voice lowered. From the same people he was trying to stop. I sat down slowly across from him. Your surname carries my family name. Yes. That means your parents had connections to my family business. Adrian nodded again. My parents owned shares in the company many years ago. What happened to them? They disappeared. The room fell silent. When? 14 years ago. I swallowed slowly. That was during a major company expansion. Yes. And after they disappeared, who raised you? Adrian pointed toward the kitchen door. A middle-aged woman stepped into the room quietly. This is my guardian, Adrian said. She has taken care of me since my parents vanished. The woman nodded politely. Daniel spoke from behind me. Your husband located Adrian 2 years ago while reviewing old company records. I turned toward him. Why was he reviewing records from 14 years ago? Daniel answered without hesitation. Because he discovered irregular payments connected to the same time period. I looked back at Adrian. What did my husband tell you about your parents? Adrian's voice remained calm. He believed my parents refused to give up their company's shares. And then, they received threats. My pulse quickened. From who? Adrian's eyes held mine steadily. People inside your family. The accusation felt like ice spreading through my chest. That is impossible. That is what my father said too. I leaned forward slightly. Your father? Yes. Where is he now? Adrian hesitated, then spoke slowly. He died 5 years ago. What about your mother? No one has seen her since the night my parents disappeared. The weight of that sentence filled the room. Then Adrian added something that changed everything I believed about my husband's final weeks. Your husband believed someone tried to poison him. My heart froze. He told you that? Yes. When? 2 weeks before he died. The same timeline Daniel mentioned earlier. What exactly did he say? Adrian looked down briefly, then spoke with quiet certainty. He said if something happened to him, I should trust Daniel. My eyes moved toward Daniel Mercer. And he said something else, Adrian continued. What? Adrian's voice grew even quieter. He said the person responsible would probably be someone inside your family. Silence filled the house. My mind struggled to process everything. But Adrian's final sentence pushed the situation into even darker territory. The night before he entered the hospital, Adrian said slowly, your husband told me he had finally found proof. My heartbeat accelerated. Proof of what? Adrian lifted his eyes toward me again. Proof of who poisoned him. The room became silent after Adrian said those words. Proof of who poisoned him. For several seconds no one spoke. The quiet inside the house felt heavy enough to press against my chest. I looked at Adrian, trying to find even the smallest sign that he misunderstood something my husband said. But the teenager face remained calm. Certain. Daniel Mercer stepped closer and placed the leather folder on the table between us. This is the evidence your husband collected, he said. My eyes moved toward the folder. You already showed me financial records. That was only the surface. Daniel opened the folder slowly. Inside were several plastic sleeves holding documents. Medical reports. Hospital records. Laboratory results. He removed the first page and placed it in front of me. Your husband visited a private clinic 2 weeks before his death. I read the heading. Blood toxicology report. The same phrase appeared again. Unidentified toxin present in bloodstream. The report included a note from the doctor recommending further investigation. My throat tightened. The hospital never told me about this. They never intended to. Daniel placed another page beside it. Hospital admission record from the night my husband collapsed. The official cause listed on the form read organ failure. But something unusual appeared at the bottom of the page. A handwritten authorization. My signature. I stared at it. My hands began shaking. That is not possible. Daniel's voice remained calm. What part? That signature. You recognize it? Yes. Then what is the problem? I never signed this. The room felt colder. Daniel leaned forward slightly. Look carefully. I studied the document again. The signature resembled mine perfectly. Every curve, every line. But one small detail felt wrong. The final stroke tilted in the opposite direction. This is a forgery, I whispered. Daniel nodded slowly. Your husband believed the same thing. My mind raced. Someone forged my signature to approve medical decisions. Yes. But why use my name? Because it removed suspicion. The logic felt disturbingly clear. If the hospital believed I authorized treatment decisions, no one would question the official diagnosis. My hands remained on the document. Who delivered this authorization? Daniel reached for another sheet. Hospital visitor log. Several names appeared. Doctors, nurses, family members. My eyes moved down the list, then stopped suddenly. My brother's name appeared near the top. Time of visit. 2 hours before my husband's condition worsened. My chest tightened. My brother visited him? Yes. I was not told. Daniel studied my reaction carefully. He stayed only 15 minutes. What happened during those 15 minutes? That is exactly what we tried to learn. Daniel placed another document on the table. Security footage report. The paper explained that cameras near my husband's hospital room malfunctioned that night. My stomach twisted. They removed the video. Yes. Who has access to hospital security systems? Daniel answered quietly. People with money. Silence filled the room again. I looked toward Adrian. Did my husband ever mention my brother by name? Adrian shook his head slowly. No, but he said something about family members visiting the hospital. What exactly? Adrian thought for a moment. He said someone entered his room while he was sleeping. My heart pounded harder. Did he see who it was? No, but he woke up later feeling sick. The timeline fit perfectly with the medical report. Toxin exposure, sudden illness, hospital admission, and a forged authorization approving the treatment. My thoughts spiraled through the possibilities. Why would my brother do something like that? I asked quietly. Daniel answered carefully. Your husband's investigation threatened several financial interests. How large? Millions. The number echoed inside my head. My family built the company together. But greed changes people, and money large enough can destroy loyalty. Daniel turned another page in the folder. Bank transfer records. Large payments moved through hidden accounts again. But this time the destination shocked me. Hospital Administration Fund. My eyes widened. Someone paid the hospital. Yes. For what? To confirm the official cause of death. The room spun slightly. My husband's final medical report had been purchased. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I attended every doctor meeting. I whispered. They looked directly at me and explained his condition. Daniel's voice remained steady. They were following instructions. From my family. That appears likely. My mind struggled to accept it. Yet the evidence on the table formed a clear pattern. Forged signature. Missing video footage. Medical report altered. Hospital payments. And a visit from my brother during the exact time my husband's condition worsened. Adrian broke the silence. There is something else. I turned toward him. What? The night your husband visited me before he died. Yes. He told me someone inside your family already suspected he was investigating them. My pulse quickened. What made him believe that? Adrian looked toward Daniel briefly, then back at me. He said someone tried to search his office. My heart skipped. My brother manages the company offices. Daniel nodded. Your husband discovered that too. Another layer of fear settled over me. How much evidence did my husband collect? Daniel closed the folder slowly. Enough to start a trial, and enough to send several people to prison. The weight of that statement filled the room. Then Daniel added something even more disturbing. There is one final piece of evidence. What is it? A recording. My eyes narrowed. A recording of what? Your husband explaining everything. My heart beat faster. He recorded a confession before his death? Yes. Where is it? Daniel's voice lowered slightly. In a secure location. Relief washed through me briefly. But Daniel's next sentence erased that feeling instantly. The problem is that someone else may already be searching for it. My chest tightened again. Who? Daniel looked directly into my eyes. The same person who forged your signature. The room felt smaller with every passing second. Then Adrian spoke again. There is something I never told Daniel. Both of us turned toward him. What is it? Daniel asked. Adrian hesitated, then spoke quietly. The night your husband visited me. He said the person responsible was closer to you than you realize. My heartbeat slowed. What does that mean? Adrian's voice became almost a whisper. He believed the real mastermind was not your brother. Silence returned to the room. Then Adrian finished the sentence that made my entire body go still. He believed it was someone even closer to you than that. Adrian's words followed me the entire drive home. Someone closer than my brother. The thought repeated inside my mind again and again while the city lights passed across the windshield. My brother was the obvious suspect. He controlled many company operations. His name appeared in the hospital visitor log. His influence inside the business made him capable of moving large amounts of money. But Adrian's last sentence opened a darker possibility. Someone even closer. Someone my husband feared more than anyone else. By the time I reached my house, evening had already arrived. The front lights were on again. Another car sat in the driveway. My sister's vehicle. A heavy feeling formed inside my chest. They were waiting. I walked inside slowly. The living room lights were bright. My brother and sister sat across from each other at the table. Several folders and papers lay scattered between them. Both stopped speaking the moment I entered. You left early this morning, my sister said. I needed to think. My brother leaned back in his chair. Where did you go? A drive. Across the city? His voice sounded casual, yet the precision of the question made my pulse rise. You followed me? No, he said calmly. But someone saw your car. Silence filled the room. My sister pushed a document toward me. We spoke with a lawyer today. I glanced down. Legal settlement proposal. My brother crossed his arms. If you sign this, the case will disappear. I studied the document carefully. The settlement required me to surrender my shares in the family company. Every share. In exchange, the lawsuit would be withdrawn. My stomach tightened. You want me to give up my entire ownership? Yes. That is 30 years of work. That is also the simplest way to protect the family. The word protect echoed strangely. Protect the family from what? From public scandal. I placed the document on the table. You mean from a criminal investigation? My brother's expression hardened. You are making dangerous assumptions. I am reading the evidence. What evidence? The question arrived quickly. Too quickly. I held his gaze. The kind my husband collected before he died. My sister's posture changed instantly. What exactly are you suggesting? That my husband was investigating financial crimes. That is absurd. Then why are you asking me to surrender my shares? My brother's voice sharpened. Because the company cannot survive a court battle. I leaned forward slightly. Or because the trial would expose something you do not want revealed. The tension inside the room grew thick. My sister stood up abruptly. You are grieving and confused. Grief does not create forged signatures. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Both of them froze. My brother's eyes narrowed. What forged signatures? The silence that followed felt dangerous. I realized my mistake too late. My brother's voice became quieter. Who told you about that? My heartbeat quickened. Answer the question. You already know the answer. No, he said slowly. I do not. My sister stepped closer. Someone has been filling your head with lies. I watched both of them carefully. The fear Adrian described earlier appeared clearly now. Not confusion. Not surprise. Fear. My brother picked up the settlement paper and tapped it against the table. You should sign this tonight. No, you did not even think about it. I already thought about it. And my answer is no. My brother's jaw tightened. You are making a mistake. Am I? Yes. Then explain something to me. I reached into my coat pocket and removed the hospital visitor log Daniel gave me earlier. My brother's face lost color the moment he saw the paper. You visited my husband 2 hours before he collapsed. His eyes flickered briefly. That was a normal visit. 15 minutes. Yes. What did you do during those 15 minutes? Spoke with him. About what? Family matters. My voice grew colder. Did you give him anything to drink? My sister gasped. My brother slammed his hand on the table. That accusation is outrageous. Then explain the toxin found in his blood. Silence fell across the room. Neither of them spoke. The weight of that silence said more than any confession. My brother slowly pushed the visitor log aside. You should stop listening to whoever is feeding you this nonsense. I prefer evidence. Evidence can be manipulated. Like hospital reports. His eyes hardened. You have no proof. I leaned back in my chair. My husband believed someone inside this family poisoned him. My sister's voice rose sharply. That is a lie. Then why did someone forge my signature on the hospital authorization? The room froze again. My brother stared at me. You are accusing your own family. I am asking questions. My sister's voice trembled slightly. You are tearing this family apart. I looked at both of them carefully. No, my husband's death already did that. My brother stood up slowly. Listen carefully. His tone had changed. Less polite. More threatening. If this case reaches court, everything we built will collapse. Then maybe it deserves to collapse. His eyes darkened. You do not understand what you are starting. Maybe I do. The tension between us grew unbearable. Then my brother delivered a sentence. That confirmed everything I feared. If you continue this investigation, you will destroy the entire family. I stood up as well. My husband already tried to warn me. Warn you about what? That someone in this house wanted him dead. The words echoed through the room. My sister looked terrified. My brother looked furious. Then he said something that sent a chill down my spine. You are chasing ghosts. Am I? Yes. Then answer one final question. What? I looked directly into his eyes. If you did not poison my husband, I paused. Why did the hospital receive a large payment from one of your accounts the day after he died? For the first time in my life, my brother did not answer immediately. His silence lasted only 3 seconds. But those 3 seconds told me everything. And then he spoke again. You are asking the wrong person. My stomach tightened. What does that mean? My brother's expression shifted into something darker. It was almost a smile. You keep blaming me, he said quietly. But I was not the one your husband feared most. The air in the room felt suddenly colder. Then who was it? I asked. My brother's voice dropped into a whisper. You should ask someone who shared your house with him for 30 years. My heart skipped. Who are you talking about? He leaned closer across the table and delivered the sentence that shattered the last piece of certainty in my life. Ask yourself. My brother's words followed me into the courtroom. Ask yourself. The sentence refused to leave my mind while I walked through the tall wooden doors of the city courthouse 3 weeks later. Journalists stood near the entrance, their voices rising in quick whispers as people arrived. News of the case had spread faster than anyone expected. The family company stood at the center of the storm. Financial fraud, inheritance manipulation, suspicious death. 3 accusations strong enough to destroy reputations built over decades. I walked past the reporters without speaking. Inside the courtroom, rows of seats filled slowly with lawyers, investigators, and curious spectators. The atmosphere carried a tense silence that felt heavier than any argument. Daniel Mercer stood near the defense table organizing documents. When he saw me, he nodded once. Today will be difficult, he said quietly. Difficult does not frighten me anymore. That is good. My eyes moved across the courtroom. My brother sat on the opposite side beside his lawyer. His posture looked calm, almost relaxed. My sister sat behind him, avoiding eye contact with anyone in the room. The judge entered a few minutes later. Everyone stood. The sound of chairs sliding across the floor echoed through the room before silence returned. The trial had begun. The prosecutor opened the case with a clear statement. This court will hear evidence of corporate fraud, illegal financial transfers, medical record manipulation, and the suspicious death of a man who attempted to expose those crimes. Every word felt like a hammer striking the walls. My brother lawyer rose immediately afterward. These accusations are built on assumptions, rumors, and fabricated evidence created by individuals seeking control of the company. The battle lines were clear. Then the evidence presentation began. The prosecutor displayed the first document on a large screen. Bank transfer records. Millions of dollars moved through hidden accounts connected to the family company. The dates stretched back more than 10 years. My brother lawyer objected immediately. Those transfers represent internal investments. The prosecutor shook his head, then explained why the money moved through accounts that belong only to members of the defendant family. Silence followed. Next came the hospital records. The forged signature appeared on the screen. My name, my handwriting, but altered. The prosecutor spoke clearly. A forensic handwriting expert confirmed this signature is an imitation. The courtroom murmured quietly. My brother lawyer stood again. This proves nothing about my client involvement. Daniel Mercer rose slowly from his seat. Perhaps the next piece of evidence will clarify that. The judge nodded. Daniel approached the screen. He displayed the hospital visitor log. My brother's name appeared clearly beside the time of visit. 2 hours before my husband collapsed. The prosecutor turned toward the jury. Shortly after this visit, toxic substances were detected in the victim's bloodstream. My brother lawyer objected again. There is no proof my client administered anything. Daniel spoke calmly. Then perhaps the financial records will explain his presence. Another document appeared on the screen. Bank transaction. Large payment transferred from my brother's private account to a hospital administrative fund. The date matched the morning after my husband's death. The courtroom filled with whispers. The judge struck the gavel. Order. My brother remained silent. His lawyer leaned toward him, speaking urgently. Then the defense attorney stood. The payment represents a donation to the hospital. The prosecutor smiled slightly. A generous donation delivered hours after the hospital confirmed the cause of death. The tension in the room thickened. Then the prosecutor called the first witness. Adrian. The teenager walked toward the witness stand slowly. His calm posture contrasted sharply with the tension surrounding him. He raised his hand and swore to tell the truth. The prosecutor began. State your relationship with the victim. He was the person protecting me. From what? My family disappearance. The courtroom leaned forward slightly. Explain. Adrian described how his parents owned shares in the family company years earlier. How they refused to sell. How threats began appearing soon afterward. Then he described the night they vanished. The silence in the courtroom became heavy. The prosecutor asked the final question. What did the victim tell you before his death? Adrian's voice remained steady. He believed someone inside the company tried to poison him. My brother lawyer stood quickly. This is speculation. The judge allowed the testimony to remain. Daniel Mercer approached the witness stand next. Adrian, he said calmly. Did the victim mention any evidence he collected before his death? Yes. What kind? A recording. The courtroom grew even quieter. My brother lawyer stiffened. Daniel continued. Did he explain what the recording contained? Yes. What? Adrian looked toward me briefly, then back at Daniel. He recorded himself explaining who was responsible. The prosecutor stepped forward. Where is that recording now? Adrian answered quietly. In a secure location. The courtroom buzzed again. My brother lawyer stood. Without that recording, this testimony remains meaningless. Daniel Mercer returned to the defense table slowly. Then he spoke the sentence that shifted the entire atmosphere inside the courtroom. The recording will be presented to this court. The room fell silent. My brother's eyes widened slightly. For the first time since the trial began, he looked unsettled. The judge leaned forward. When will the court receive this recording? Daniel answered calmly. Tomorrow. The gavel struck again. Court adjourned for the day. People stood and began leaving their seats. Reporters rushed toward the hallway doors. I remained seated. My heart beat heavily inside my chest. The recording. My husband's final explanation. The truth about who poisoned him. Daniel approached me. Tomorrow will change everything. I hope so. There is something you should know. What? Daniel's voice lowered. The recording contains more than names. What else? Your husband discovered the real mastermind behind the entire scheme. My breath slowed. Someone beyond my brother. Yes. I felt the weight of my brother's earlier words returning again. Ask yourself. Who is it? I asked quietly. Daniel looked toward the empty witness stand. Then back at me. The person your husband trusted most before his death. The words sent a chill down my spine. And for the first time since the trial began, a terrifying thought entered my mind. What if the real enemy was not sitting across the courtroom at all? What if the person responsible had been standing beside me all along? The courtroom felt different the next morning. A quiet tension filled the air long before the judge entered. Reporters crowded the hallway outside the courtroom doors. Their cameras flashed each time someone stepped inside. Everyone knew something significant would happen today. The recording. My husband's final message. The truth he left behind. I sat beside Daniel Mercer at the defense table while people slowly filled the seats. My brother arrived with his lawyer several minutes later. He looked less confident than the previous day. For the first time since the trial began, uncertainty appeared in his expression. My sister followed behind him. She avoided looking at me. That detail alone stirred another wave of unease in my chest. The judge entered. Everyone stood. When the courtroom settled again, the prosecutor rose immediately. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to introduce new evidence connected to the victim's final investigation. The judge nodded. Proceed. Daniel stood and walked toward the center of the room, carrying a small digital device. This recording was created by the victim 3 days before his death, he said calmly. My pulse quickened. 3 days. That meant my husband already knew something terrible was coming. Daniel placed the device on the evidence table. Before his death, he delivered this recording to a trusted friend with instructions that it should only be presented in court if something happened to him. The prosecutor spoke. Who was this trusted friend? Daniel lifted his eyes. I was. A quiet murmur spread through the courtroom. My brother lawyer stood immediately. This recording cannot be verified. Daniel remained calm. The device contains a timestamp and biometric verification. It confirms the victim identity beyond doubt. The judge leaned forward. Play the recording. Daniel pressed the button. The sound of my husband's voice filled the courtroom. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. It had been weeks since I last heard that voice. Yet the tone sounded exactly the same. Calm, measured, strong. If someone is hearing this recording, my husband said, it means something happened before I could finish exposing the truth. Every person in the courtroom listened closely. I have spent the last 3 months investigating financial activity inside the company. What I discovered disturbed me more than I expected. Daniel glanced briefly toward my brother. I believed at first that the illegal transfers were controlled by one person. My brother lawyer shifted in his seat. But the evidence shows something larger. My husband's voice continued. A network of accounts has been moving company funds for years. These transfers created hidden leverage over several families connected to earlier business disputes. The courtroom remained silent. Then the recording reached the part that froze my entire body. One of those families belonged to the parents of a child now under protection. Adrian. My husband continued speaking. The disappearance of those parents was not an accident. It was part of a financial coercion strategy designed by members of my spouse's family. My heart pounded harder. Then the recording moved closer to the truth everyone feared. I confronted one family member about the financial transfers. The courtroom leaned forward. That person reacted with hostility and attempted to block my access to company records. My brother shifted slightly in his chair. I began collecting proof after that confrontation. My husband's voice slowed. And during the past week, I have realized something even more disturbing. The silence deepened. The person responsible for orchestrating these crimes is not the person most people would suspect. A wave of tension spread through the room. My brother lawyer looked relieved for a moment. Then my husband continued. The real mastermind has been controlling events from a position of trust, guided the company decisions for years. My brother frowned. That person arranged the financial transfers. My sister's face grew pale. And that person arranged the hospital payment after I collapsed. Daniel slowly turned toward the witness seats. My pulse thundered in my ears. Then the final sentence arrived. The person behind everything is my spouse. The courtroom exploded into shocked voices. My breath vanished. I felt every eye in the room turn toward me. My mind refused to accept what I just heard. My spouse. The words echoed again and again inside my head. The prosecutor looked stunned. Daniel stared at the recording device. My brother slowly leaned back in his chair. Then something happened that made the situation even more terrifying. He smiled. Not with surprise. Not with shock. But with quiet satisfaction. The judge struck the gavel repeatedly. Order in the courtroom. The noise slowly faded. I could barely speak. That recording is wrong, I whispered. Daniel looked at me carefully. There must be another explanation. My brother lawyer stood immediately. Your Honor, the recording clearly identifies the person responsible. My chest tightened. This is impossible. The prosecutor looked uncertain. Daniel pressed pause on the device and studied the screen. Then he said something that made the entire courtroom fall silent again. There is more. The judge raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Daniel pointed at the device. The recording did not end yet. My heart pounded violently. The room became completely still. Daniel pressed the button again. My husband's voice returned. And this time the next sentence changed everything again. If you are hearing this part of the message, it means someone tried to manipulate my words. The courtroom froze. My spouse is the only person I fully trust. A wave of relief rushed through my body. But my husband's next sentence turned that relief into something far more frightening. The person who will try to frame my spouse is the real mastermind. Daniel's eyes narrowed. The judge leaned forward again. Then my husband delivered the final name. And that person is... The courtroom held its breath. Daniel Mercer's hand remained on the recording device while every person in the room waited for the final name. The silence lasted only a second. Yet that second felt longer than the entire trial. Then my husband's voice continued. And that person is the one who controlled every financial transfer without appearing in any official records. My heart pounded. Daniel leaned closer to the speaker. The person who organized the hospital payment. My brother shifted uneasily. The person who convinced everyone that the financial decisions came from somewhere else. My mind raced through every possibility. Then my husband's voice delivered the name. My sister-in-law. The courtroom erupted again. My sister froze where she sat. Her face drained of color. My brother looked stunned. For a moment, the entire room fell into chaos. The judge struck the gavel repeatedly. Order. But the whispers continued spreading through the courtroom like wildfire. My sister slowly stood up. This is absurd. Her voice trembled slightly. That recording is fabricated. Daniel Mercer stepped forward calmly. The timestamp confirms it was recorded 3 days before his death. My sister shook her head. He misunderstood the financial records. The prosecutor turned toward her. You controlled the company bookkeeping department for 14 years. That does not make me a criminal. No, the prosecutor said quietly. But it gave you access to every financial channel. The tension thickened again. My brother looked toward her slowly. You never told me about any hidden transfers. My sister's voice rose sharply. Because there were none. Daniel lifted another document. A detailed audit report. These accounts were opened under shell companies. He placed the paper in front of the judge. Each one connected to bookkeeping permissions under your authority. My sister's hands trembled. That proves nothing. The prosecutor spoke again. It proves control. Then he pointed toward the hospital payment record. And this transfer came from one of those hidden accounts. The courtroom watched her closely. Her calm composure began breaking apart. You cannot prove I poisoned anyone. Daniel answered quietly. Perhaps not. But your financial trail explains how the hospital report was altered. My sister took a step backward. This is manipulation. My brother looked at her again. This time his expression held something different. Confusion. Why would you hide company money from me? He asked. She did not answer immediately. Instead, she looked toward me. For several seconds, our eyes met across the courtroom. A strange sadness appeared in her face. Then she laughed softly. The sound unsettled everyone in the room. You really never understood any of this, she said. The judge leaned forward. Explain your statement. She looked toward the jury. Everyone believes this case is about money. Her smile widened slightly. But money was never the real goal. My stomach tightened. The prosecutor asked carefully. Then what was the goal? She pointed toward Adrian sitting in the witness section. That child. The entire courtroom turned toward him. Adrian looked confused. My sister's voice grew colder. That child's parents refused to sell their company's shares many years ago. That is already part of the record, the prosecutor said. But what the record does not explain is why those shares mattered. The judge watched her carefully. Continue. She crossed her arms slowly. Those shares controlled the last remaining voting power inside the company. Daniel's eyes narrowed. You needed them to gain complete control. Yes. And when the parents refused, they disappeared. The confession landed heavily in the room. My heart raced. You threatened them, I whispered. Her eyes met mine again. They were weak. Adrian clenched his fists. You destroyed my family. She shrugged slightly. They destroyed themselves by refusing a simple agreement. The prosecutor spoke firmly. And the child? My sister smiled faintly. The child remained useful. My pulse quickened. How? Because the child carried the legal claim to those shares. The courtroom fell silent again. Daniel spoke slowly. That means the child inheritance still holds power inside the company. Yes. And if the child disappeared as well, she finished the sentence calmly, then the shares would eventually return to the company itself. My stomach turned. You planned everything. Her gaze remained steady. For years. My brother's voice trembled. You never told me. You never asked. My husband's voice echoed again in my memory. The person responsible understands that I have discovered the truth. Daniel stepped forward again. The victim discovered your financial network. Yes. And he planned to expose you. Yes. And you attempted to silence him. My sister's expression hardened. I did what was necessary. Gasps spread across the courtroom. My brother looked horrified. You poisoned him. She laughed again. Do not be dramatic. The prosecutor raised the medical report. Toxic substances were found in his bloodstream. She tilted her head slightly. He drank something offered by someone he trusted. The words hit me like a blow. Someone he trusted, I repeated. Her eyes locked onto mine. Yes. The room grew colder. For a moment no one moved. Then she added something that made the situation even darker. But the poison was never meant to kill him. Daniel frowned. What do you mean? It was only supposed to weaken him. Why? So he would abandon the investigation. My breath slowed. But something went wrong. Yes. The judge stared at her carefully. You admit responsibility for the toxin. I admit responsibility for protecting the company. The prosecutor spoke firmly. And the hospital payment. She sighed. That was damage control. My brother looked at her with disbelief. You destroyed everything. She turned toward him calmly. No, I almost saved everything. The courtroom sat in stunned silence. But one detail still lingered unanswered. Adrian spoke quietly from the witness seat. If you plan to control the company, he looked directly at her. Why did you allow me to live? Her smile returned slowly. Because you were insurance. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Insurance for what? She answered calmly. For the day someone tried to expose me. The room fell silent again. Then she delivered the sentence that froze every person in the courtroom. And that day arrived sooner than I expected. The courtroom remained silent long after my sister finished speaking. Her confession had drained the room of air. Even the reporters sitting near the back had stopped writing. No one expected the truth to arrive so directly. The judge leaned forward slowly. You are admitting involvement in financial manipulation, coercion, and medical interference. My sister stood calmly in the center of the courtroom. I am admitting that I protected what our family built. The prosecutor's voice sharpened. You poisoned a man. I weakened a threat. Gasps moved through the audience again. Daniel Mercer stepped forward. The victim died because of that poison. That was not the intention. The judge raised a hand. Intent will be determined by the court. 2 security officers moved closer to my sister. She did not resist. Instead, she looked toward me. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. 30 years of family history sat between us. Family dinners, business meetings, celebrations, arguments. All of it now felt like a fragile illusion that had finally shattered. You could have stopped this, she said quietly. My chest tightened. How? By accepting the settlement. You mean by surrendering everything? You would still have your life. I shook my head slowly. My husband deserved justice. Her expression hardened again. Justice destroys families. No, I replied. Secrets do. The judge called for a brief recess. Court officers escorted my sister out of the room. The tension inside the courtroom remained heavy even after she disappeared through the side door. My brother remained seated at the defense table. His hands trembled slightly. Daniel sat beside me. This changes everything, he said quietly. Yes. The financial evidence now connects directly to her authority. What about my brother? Daniel glanced toward him. He may still face charges connected to the hospital payment. I looked across the room. My brother's face looked pale. When our eyes met, something unexpected appeared in his expression. Regret. The court resumed after 20 minutes. The judge returned to the bench and reviewed the final evidence presented during the trial. Financial audits, medical records, the recording my husband left behind, and my sister's confession. Each piece created a chain impossible to break. The prosecutor stood for the final statement. This case shows what happens when power and greed replace loyalty and trust. The victim tried to expose financial crimes that harmed innocent people. He paid for that courage with his life. My chest tightened hearing those words. My husband's voice echoed again in my memory. if something happens to me. The defense lawyer spoke briefly afterward, but even his arguments sounded weak against the weight of the evidence. Then the judge delivered the decision. The court finds sufficient evidence to convict the defendant of corporate fraud, financial coercion, and medical conspiracy leading to the death of the victim. The courtroom held its breath. The defendant will remain in custody while sentencing procedures begin. The gavel struck the bench. The verdict was final. My sister would face prison. The reporters rushed out of the courtroom immediately. The news would spread across the country within hours. Another chapter of my family history had ended. But one question still remained. What would happen to the company? The judge addressed that issue before leaving. Due to the extent of financial corruption uncovered during this trial, the company will enter temporary federal supervision while ownership claims are reviewed. Daniel leaned toward me. This protects the remaining assets. And the shares connected to Adrian family? They will be restored. Adrian sat quietly near the witness section. The teenager looked exhausted after the long trial. Yet something about his posture looked stronger now. Perhaps knowing the truth had finally surfaced. Court officers escorted my sister back into the room briefly before taking her into custody. She stopped walking when she reached the center aisle. Then she turned toward me again. "You think this is over?" she said. My voice remained calm. "Yes." Her smile returned faintly. "You still do not understand how much damage this trial will cause." I did not answer. She continued. "The company reputation will collapse. Then we will rebuild it." She laughed quietly. Rebuild with what family? The question struck deeper than expected. Because she was right about one thing. The family I once trusted no longer existed. Security officers guided her out of the courtroom. The door closed behind her. The silence that followed felt strangely peaceful. My brother approached slowly. For several seconds he struggled to speak. "I never knew," he said finally. "I believe you." His shoulders dropped slightly. "I should have seen the warning signs." "Yes. I was too focused on protecting the company. Sometimes protecting the truth matters more." He nodded slowly. Daniel joined us near the aisle. "The legal battles are not finished yet," he said. "What comes next?" I asked. "Asset recovery, corporate restructuring, and compensation for the families affected by the scheme." I looked toward Adrian. "That includes him." Daniel nodded. "Yes." The courtroom slowly emptied around us. But before leaving, Daniel said something that made my thoughts pause again. "There is still one final matter." "What?" "The letter your husband left for you." My heart skipped. "A letter?" "Yes." "He asked me to deliver it only after the trial ended." My hands felt suddenly unsteady. "Why did he wait until now?" Daniel answered quietly. "Because he wanted the truth revealed before you read his final words." He reached into his briefcase, then placed a sealed envelope into my hands. The handwriting on the front belonged to my husband. The sight alone almost broke me. But before I opened it, Daniel added one more sentence. "There is something inside that letter you are not expecting." My pulse quickened again. What could possibly surprise me after everything that happened? Daniel's expression grew serious. "The truth about why your husband trusted you more than anyone else." The envelope felt heavier in my hands. And suddenly I realized something. The trial might have ended, but my husband's final secret had not been revealed yet. I did not open the letter inside the courthouse. The hallway was crowded with reporters and lawyers, voices echoing through the marble walls. My husband's final words deserved silence, not noise. So I waited. That evening I returned to the cemetery, the same place where everything changed weeks earlier. The rain had stopped this time. A quiet wind moved through the trees while the sky slowly faded toward dusk. The grave looked freshly covered with soil, the stone marker already standing at the head. His name carved deeply into the surface. 30 years of life summarized in one line. I stood there for several minutes before sitting on the bench nearby. The envelope rested in my hands. My husband's handwriting covered the front. For a moment I hesitated. Opening it felt like reopening the wound his death created. But it also felt like the final step in understanding everything he had tried to protect. I slid a finger beneath the seal. The paper inside unfolded easily. My eyes moved slowly across the first line. "My love, if you are reading this letter, it means the truth has finally come out." My chest tightened immediately. I continued reading. "I know this trial will bring pain to you, and I am sorry for that. But there was no other way to stop what was happening inside the company. I warned them many times to stop moving the money and threatening people. They refused. My fingers tightened around the page. I never wanted to involve you in this investigation. I hoped to finish everything quietly before the danger reached you. But once I realized how deep the corruption had grown, I knew that silence would only make things worse. The wind moved softly across the cemetery. I continued reading. You might wonder why I trusted you with the company finances for so many years while I investigated everyone else. The answer is simple. You were the only person who never asked for control. You never chased power. You only protected the people around you. That is why I knew you would do the right thing if something happened to me. My eyes blurred slightly. You may also wonder about Adrian. I met him while reviewing records from an old business dispute. When I discovered what happened to his parents, I realized the company had become something very different from the dream we once built together. Adrian deserved protection, just like you. My breathing slowed as I reached the next paragraph. There is one final matter you must understand. When the investigation began, I believed your brother was responsible for the financial scheme. But as I collected more evidence, I discovered the real mastermind was someone else entirely. Someone who believed control mattered more than family. The words felt heavier now that I knew the truth. I am sorry you had to face that betrayal, but I never doubted your strength. You are stronger than you realize. The wind shifted again. Leaves moved softly across the cemetery path. Then I reached the final part of the letter. After the trial ends, the company will enter federal supervision. Eventually, ownership will return to those who still hold legal shares. That includes you. And Adrian. My heartbeat slowed. I had not expected that. Your share represents decades of honest work. Adrian's share represents justice for what his family lost. Together you can rebuild the company the right way. Not through fear, not through control, but through fairness. My fingers trembled slightly while reading the last lines. Take care of Adrian. He will need guidance. And take care of yourself. You gave me 30 years of loyalty and love. I will always be grateful for that. Goodbye, my love. The letter ended there. I lowered the paper slowly. The quiet evening wrapped around the cemetery again. For the first time since the trial began, the weight inside my chest felt lighter. Not gone, but lighter. Footsteps approached along the gravel path behind me. I turned my head. Adrian stood a short distance away. Daniel Mercer stood beside him. Neither of them spoke immediately. Adrian walked closer to the grave. He placed a small stone near the marker. I wanted to thank him, he said quietly. I nodded. He believed you deserved a future. Adrian looked toward me. I hope I can live up to that. You already are. Daniel stepped forward slightly. The government will begin restructuring the company next month. I folded the letter carefully. And after that, ownership will be transferred according to the legal shares. That means Adrian and I will run it together. Yes. The responsibility felt enormous. But it also felt right. The wind moved again through the trees. For a moment, none of us spoke. Then Daniel said something unexpected. There is one more thing your husband never mentioned in the recording. I looked at him. What is it? Daniel studied the grave quietly. Your husband knew the danger would not end with the trial. My pulse quickened slightly. What do you mean? He looked toward the cemetery entrance. People connected to the financial network your sister created may still exist. The quiet evening suddenly felt colder. You mean others were involved? Yes. How many? Daniel shook his head slowly. That is something we will discover over time. Adrian looked uneasy. Does that mean the danger is not over? Daniel answered calmly. No, but your husband believed you could handle whatever comes next. I looked down at the grave again. Then something caught my attention. Near the cemetery gate, a person stood beside a parked car, watching us. The distance made the face difficult to recognize, but the posture looked familiar. Daniel noticed it too. Do you know that person? He asked. I stared toward the figure. For several seconds the person remained still. Then they stepped into the car and drove away. I shook my head slowly. No, the road outside the cemetery grew quiet again. Daniel's voice remained calm. Then perhaps the story your husband uncovered is not finished yet. I looked down at the letter one last time. The wind lifted the edges of the paper gently. And for the first time since the funeral, I understood something clearly. My husband's secret had destroyed my family, but it had also protected the truth. And somewhere beyond the cemetery gates, that truth might still be waiting for the next chapter to begin.